We're talking today with Aisling Kennedy, who is the Chief Operations Officer for Muscular Dystrophy Ireland. You're very welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
It's great to have you, and it's nice to have you chatting to us about muscular dystrophy. So, it's a big name. You might tell us what it is and what are the symptoms.
Yeah, well, muscular dystrophy, it's there are many different types of muscular dystrophy and neuromuscular conditions. Our charity covers over 60, and there's many sub-conditions within that. So you could have SMA is one condition, and sub-conditions of that could be SMA 1, 2, 3. It's progressive muscle weakness, so you do lose, unfortunately, your muscle mass over time. Each condition is different, and the progression of each condition will be different. You know, you'd find maybe Duchenne and SMA would be more progressive than other conditions. The main thing that I think people don't understand about muscular dystrophy, it can come at any stage in life. So it's not just at birth. It can come at childhood, it can come at adulthood. Any one of us could get diagnosed tomorrow with muscular dystrophy. Mainly Duchenne would be kind of the more progressive one, and that would be mainly in boys, and that will come at birth at young age, and SMA too. The other kind of really hard fact of muscular dystrophy is it's genetic. Right. So if I get tested and I have a type of muscular dystrophy, you have to get your whole family tested. And with that comes, as you know, our healthcare system is up against it. There's long waiting lists, and you have to go through genetic counselling first before you can actually get genetic testing. So it's quite severe for a family, because if they get diagnosed, then they have to test everyone around them, and it could be a long waiting list of a year, if not a year and a half. So depending on the condition, it can affect not just the muscles, because people think it's a muscle condition, but it can actually affect like your heart and lungs, and certain nerves as well of your nervous system. But it will depend on the condition. Another kind of key fact, which is quite hard for us as an organisation, it is a rare condition. So connecting people in can be quite hard for us as an organisation, and we're a national organisation, so we're all across the country, And then one last key fact about it is, it's hard to say, but it is not curable. Right. But there are treatments that can slow down the progression of muscular dystrophy. And we do have certain amount of treatments for under different conditions in the country, and some treatments we have not ethically brought into the country yet that could slow down the likes of things, just certain treatments around SMA, which we do quite a severe condition, and Duchenne. So we do a lot of advocacy work around that, and work with the government, work with the ministers, just to get certain treatments into the country, and to help the different conditions that that may not have that treatment in our country. So hope that gives a flavour of.
Is there a known cause?
A no cause.
A known cause.
No.
Right.
Because it's not curable, so there is no known cause really. There's a lot of research being done internationally. Yeah, so we have a research officer on our staff team, so she works a lot with the international parties, and they'd be way ahead of Ireland. Yeah. So we do link in with a lot of the UK and Europe and America, but no, there's not that we know of, but we have a research officer on our team anyway, so we do work on that area.
So can you tell us a little bit about, you said there was many conditions involved. You might tell us about two.
Two of the hardest probably, Duchenne would probably be one of the hardest. When you get diagnosed with Duchenne, it can be very progressive. Right. Obviously it comes with young boys only. And, over time, you could end up in a power wheelchair much quicker than you would hope to be. So, there is no treatment for Duchenne in the country. There is a drug we're campaigning on. It's very hard to pronounce. I can't even pronounce it. It begins with a G. And it's up on our website. Don't worry about it. But they're bringing it into the UK, and we're looking to seek it to come in to Ireland, but it will be a long-term campaign. But yeah, look, it's just progressive. With SMA, it can be very progressive as well, but it depends on which type you have. It could be type 1, type 2 or type 3. Okay. Type 1 would be quite severe. And once again, there is a drug that can slow down. It's called Spinraza, and all our European counterparts have it within their health system. We don't have access to with our health system for adults over 18. We do for adults under 18. So there's a massive campaign going on there for us with SMA Ireland at the moment to try to get that drug in to slow down the disability, the progression of the disability. But that can come with any age SMA, and it can be across boys, girls, men, women. But Duchenne would be solely just boys only.
Diagnosis must be an absolute minefield because there's so many variations of the condition.
Yeah, it can take a while to get a diagnosis because when you do genetic testing, they have to do so much to check all the different conditions. So you could be waiting for, like, we have people that sign up with us that definitely know that they have muscular dystrophy, but just don't know what type. And it can take a while to figure it out, depending on the genetic testing and how it's presenting.
Right.
But yeah, no, it can be quite difficult, or it could be lucky. Consultants could actually get it straight away. Right. So it'd be very varying, you know.
And tell us, is there a reason why it's only boys?
For Duchenne?
Yeah.
Not that I know of. It's just that gene that they carry between whatever the parents or the grandparents or whatever runs in the family, and it just only hits boys. So it's a certain gene. Now I wouldn't be a medical person, but obviously, but just like it is a certain gene that they carry between the fammy.
You said there was a treatment. What is it?
For Duchenne?
Yeah.
That's one I can't pronounce. It's beginning with a G. Jim, and I can't even pronounce it.
Don't worry about that.
Yeah, but
what does it try and do? Slow down everything?
There's no cure. It just tries. It's proven, like in international counterparts, to slow down the progression of that disability. So that's the research around that. Yeah. And the same with Spinraza for SMA. It's proven that it does slow down the condition and the progression of it.
Now, we're all about independent living.
Yeah.
Can you live independently with muscular dystrophy?
Depends where you live in the country.
Okay.
As we know, healthcare staff, they're sometimes hard to find. Most importantly for our members, a lot of advocacy work we do is around personal assistance to live independently in your home. Certain conditions will absolutely 100% need a personal care assistant and a healthcare package put in place. We do an awful lot of advocacy work around that. Now we have a personal assistance service, but it's emergency short term. So we just step in the while we're waiting to advocate, to help the member advocate if they need it with the HSE on the healthcare package. And because the disability is so progressive, sometimes the HSE are not able to step in as quick as we would hope, because they may go from 5 hours and need 10 hours then. And also when you get first diagnosis, you need to navigate the system. Yeah. But living independently is always going to be a challenge for our members. And making sure they have the correct healthcare package. So some of our members, if they have no mobility from neck down, they're going to need turning, they're going to need help getting up in the morning, showering, all that kind of stuff. So look, I think we all know it's a challenge to, get the healthcare package that we need in place, and the burden does be on obviously the family members and parents. Yeah. And we work very holistically with the family, so we would do a lot of supports around that for carers and parents and wives, husbands, we're all around the family, siblings. Living independently can always be challenging. I mean, accessibility, depending on where you live in the country, like you need transport. Would be a big issue for our members, and housing is another area that adapted housing. When it comes to that time where they're going to need their house adapted, and there's a lot of grants out there, but we need to help our members know how to navigate that.
I get you. Yeah.
So it is like our members can live independently, but we just need to make sure that they have the right housing, the right transport, the right healthcare package in place, in order to maintain that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And tell me this then, does having muscular dystrophy preclude you from doing certain activities like driving, working, going on holidays? We will have challenges across the board, and it will depend how progressive your condition is. We would and where you are in it.
Absolutely. And And once again, like this condition, you can get diagnosed with one of the conditions of muscular dystrophy later on in life. So it could be in employment, you know, and then you might need to get your employer to adapt your employment. So there's a lot of navigating to do, and because we're across 60 conditions, it could be quite challenging. But social isolation would be a huge thing for us. And depends on where you live. Once again, the country, it depends on the supports that are around that area or that county of the country. But we would have a high percentage of members in employment. But do we have challenges with education and colleges and making sure simple things? We did a report recently, last year I think was the year before, just around the challenges that, you know, our members can face when they're moving, the transitions they face from moving from school to third level. And, you know, simple things like the ramp is not fit for purpose to get up, or it could be things like their class is up on a floor that they can't get to because there's no lift. And it was a positive report. It was just trying to highlight the challenges that our members can face, and the people that fed into the report were people with lived experience and are highly educated, like PhDs, and, you know, and they were educating us more on developing that report. We also have a school awareness program at the moment, and it's CDP accredited. And we ran a primary one webinar, and we're running a secondary one. I think we ran that yesterday. And we had over 150 teachers on each of them. And, you know, basically that's just really around explaining to schools how they need to prepare, because when a child comes from early years intervention and goes into primary school and then it goes primary to secondary, sometimes the schools aren't ready. Yeah. And, you know, and most importantly, what we find is, and it's no one's fault because it's a rare condition, people don't understand muscular dystrophy. And, you know, if it's the likes of Duchenne, you're going to have to prepare 2 years ahead for what that child may need, because it may be high level. Hoists, accessibility, toilets, making sure all the staff are educated on, you know, and the SNAs, the teachers, vice principal, everything. But there has to be supports put into the school ahead. And, you know, it's simple things like educating, you know, professionals on being inclusive, like, you know, teachers being inclusive, like, you know, PE, adaptive PE, you know, not leaving anyone out. School trips, very important. Yeah. You know, and how to get there, you know. So we would deal with challenges, like we'll deal with great schools, and then schools just don't know, some schools won't understand, and same with third level. And then we run, you know, we do an educational, we're definitely in the space of trying to educate professionals, like even simple things like OTs. You know, you'd think they would, but sometimes they don't understand disability. OTs, physiotherapists, consultants would have a good understanding if in that area. Yeah. GPs, you know, teachers, SNAs, all that area, we would work very heavily on employers. We'd go in and do talks with employers if that's needed. But yeah, we will come across challenges with, you know, being able to live independently 100%. But
it is then. What about the challenges of a person living on their own? Because I understand that, because I live on my own.
Yeah. Well, we try run services. That's where charities come in, isn't it? We try run services for that, where we have our support workers reach out. We set up programs that are peer support programs. Because we're a national organisation, we do a lot of online peer support programs and counselling and all them kind of types of area programs. We did try, you know, to set up a befriending service a while back just for that type of area. It didn't really kick off. Our family support workers seem to come into that emotional support level, and when it passes emotional support, obviously we have a counselling service that we can access, and other peer support groups, as I said. So I think it's charities that have to pull in, and support workers. That's what our support does. But and then our support workers are very much so making sure they're linked in with their community, whatever way that can be within the area they're in, like the PHN, or they're, you know, make sure they're well linked in with the disability officer and things like that. But I think it's where charities come in, to be honest, because it's not an area the healthcare system enter into. It's really the charities that come in to do that soft support in the background. But yeah, no, we would have like a number of members that would be, you know, loan. They would link in with a lot more than generally other members, you know. But I think the supports within the local community, linking them in, is the work of a charity, and ensuring that they have whatever supports they can around them. And we provide the supports, as I mentioned, that can meet them needs, you know.
Tell us, what advice would you give to somebody who's just gone through the long diagnosis process?
So that's the hardest area we deal with, you know, it's first diagnosis. That's why we have a lot of psychology groups in place, like we've run the parent group at the moment, across life cycles, early intervention group, primary life cycle, and a secondary for parents. That's just for parents, but we run loads of different types of groups. Like early diagnosis is extremely difficult. We've a clinical liaison officer that's the first point of contact in the hospitals that works there. So Beaumont will be the main neuromuscular clinic in the country, but obviously for children, the CRCs. So she goes around most of them hospitals, so she does be there most of the time when that first diagnosis comes. And she's obviously the consultants and the physios and the OTs, they're all very busy with the next appointment they may have, and they're obviously delivering that news. So she would be the person that would be able to, the member would be able to offload to, and she'd be able to signpost them to us, but also take the pressure off the consultants. But it's a very, very, very hard area, and like some people, like it's an area that we have to be very careful in, because some people aren't accepting. Some people, and they will get the diagnosis and they will leave. But the main thing about our clinical liaison officer, she'll signpost them when they're ready. Some people will be accepting straight away and want to know everything, and then that's when we break it down for them, so they're not, because you think some people might go, they think straight away, okay, what do I need to do to my house? What entitlements do I need? Where do I go? So our job is to really, assess their needs and break their goals down for them. So when they're signposted to us, to our support workers, and then most importantly, counselling. I mean, but some people just aren't ready for it. Yeah. So it varies. Like, you have to treat people so, like, it's so individual. It also depends on which condition you get diagnosed with. It depends if it's a child or you're in employment. It's a different, everything's such a different feeling. Or you're in college and you're after getting this diagnosis, because you could be living just so independently up to this time in my life, and all of a sudden you get that diagnosis. So it's an extremely sensitive and hard area, and our support workers personally are trained very well in it. And like, I suppose one of our main goals as a charity is to educate professionals when that diagnosis comes, because with the best will in the world, like, when you're in a hospital setting and you get that diagnosis, you could be thrown into like a physio or an OT, and you're not ready for that, because you don't want to hear that you need walking aids or a wheelchair or a power tool. Like, that's just not where you're at. So, and I think unfortunately, like, psychology supports within the hospital, it's just the funding's not there. So we do work very closely with one of the main people in the Beaumont Hospital, and she works with us outside of it in some of our programmes, and she's brilliant, but it's just not enough of that. Right. So I think when you get that diagnosis, the first person that you should be gone to is that person that's well trained in that area, just to sit with. But it just varies. It's a difficult area, and we need well trained staff in this area.
And you have to know your business, because with all 60 variants of the condition, you have to know every little bit of it. Yeah. Tell me this, Muscular Dystrophy Ireland, when did that come on stream?
So we're probably over 50 years old, 55 years old.
Really?
It was set up by a group of parents, as most charities are, around kitchen table in Galway. And like any charity, why do we exist? We exist because there's gaps in the system, and the system can be fragmented. So still exists today. It's also support the health structures around us. So yeah, that's where we came about. And then I suppose we just grew through the years, as charities do grow. You grow through, you get funding from the state. I'm here 6 years, so before my time, I know they had a different building. I don't know where it was. I think it was in the inner city somewhere. But then we were lucky enough to secure extra funding, and we were able to purchase our own building. So we have, lucky enough for our charity, we actually own our building, and we were able to. It's a fully accessible building, and we're able to build a home from home upstairs in it, which is fully independent living. It's completely accessible. It has everything you would need, like hoists, ceiling hoists. AT, assistive technology, is very important for our area, and we rent it out very low cost to our members that are coming up from hospital appointments. So it's a great I suppose unique selling point for us to be able to give that, because a lot of people with muscular dystrophy, they'll say they're always nervous to come to a physical building, because they don't know. People will say it's accessible, but it's not accessible for a power wheelchair most of the time. You know, get hotels and they say it's accessible, but you can't get a hoist underneath the bed. If you need a hoist, power wheelchair can't move around that bathroom like a normal wheelchair can. And that's something that we have to educate professionals on. Like, so obviously that building, a lot of people have to come up, and that's the thing about our healthcare system. Like, the main clinic for adults is Beaumont, so a lot of people have to come in from the west, and a lot of people have to come up to the Cork to see their multidisciplinary teams, and you know, to have that kind of safe space where they know I can come rent that for very little to nothing, and we've a transport driver that will drive them to their medical appointments and back. It's reassuring, isn't it? Like, if you to go into a building and you know that you're going to get it low cost. And obviously upstairs then we'd have PA rooms, person system rooms, attached. So, you know, members can have their person system with them. But so this is a great thing for us as a charity through the years that we've been able to purchase. So yeah, that's a bit of the history. I hope I've explained it.
Brilliant. Yeah, you did, absolutely. I think you took us through all of the services that you provide.
Well, we provide a lot more than that. I could be here all day. Look, we have a family support service.
That's really important, isn't it?
Yeah, because it's outreach and we workers all around the country. They man kind of like we've new launched information advocacy support line. And the reason why we wanted to launch that and they're all on it, is that most of the support we will do via phone, you know. And we do the needs assessment and support plan goals and all the kind of anything that information and advocacy support that members may need, mostly through the phone, but it's the first point of contact for anyone. So if anyone said, I need support tomorrow, ring that line to someone on it. And that's really good for us, because we used to have a kind of slightly different model, but sure, look, if support workers were off, you wouldn't get your support workers. So they mainly man that, and they're outreach, and they run a lot of different programs, like we run an assistive technology program. Connecting in with others program is very important, because our members, as we were talking about, socially isolated. So we run a lot of different online supports and psychology supports and counselling supports. They would look after the counselling program as well. We run a youth service, very important. Our youth service will be more physical because it is that type of nature. And they run a number of things like youth catch-ups. They run the school awareness program, early years intervention program. So they run a lot of things. The siblings program is so important, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, because, you know, siblings are watching their parents, you know, look after a child, maybe just for one example, a child with muscular dystrophy. Independent living program, it's a new program we launched this year. It's gone very, very well for us. We've got funding for that. It's just teaching people how to, you know, move independently, you know, whether it's cookery or how to speak to your PA. You know, we've different modules underneath. You'd find 15 to 17 may be nervous to speak to an adult and tell them that's intrusive, I don't need that much help, or I actually do need more help. It's their SNA or their personal assistant. That's just giving you a quick flavour, not giving you everything. But
don't worry.
Clinical liaison officer, I mentioned that. That's a really brilliant role.
That's really important.
Yes, that's a really good role, and it's also brought in, like, for our profile even, it's brought in a lot more referrals into us, because now people, they know about us. Because if you get diagnosed, a lot of people don't know about muscular dystrophy Ireland because they didn't need to, you know. So our referrals are coming in much faster, and it's timely for people, you know. Our counselling is short term. So we probably wouldn't do more than like kind of up to 12 sessions, but you can come back around again, because the disability is progressive. You may only need it for a stopping gap to accept, and then, you know, later down the line, when that your diagnosis might change and maybe getting more progressive, you need to come back in again. Long-term counselling, we'll advocate to the HSE, and there's different systems there that we would do that for. And we get funding from TUSLA and as well as the HSE for that, and a lot of refunding as well, so it's well funded. And then our personal assistance service, I did mention that, but it's just short term.
That's really important.
Yeah, it is, because like just to step in, like, I'll give you an example, like, you know, if you're a primary carer, and this is a clear example that we do all the time. Primary care goes into hospital because they broke their leg or had whatever happened to them. You've lost your primary carer, but the HSE, you're not ready to step in to give you a person's assistance. It's your family that has to step in. So we will step in all them emergencies while we advocate, because it's not our job to provide long-term personal assistance. We wouldn't be equipped. We're only a charity to advocate with the HSE and the PHN and the, whoever they're dealing with to get that in place. So like it's a great service to have in an emergency, and it's supportive of the HSE. So to give them a little bit of time to find carers and things like that. So and it's funded by obviously the HSE as well. Mentioned the research service.
And that's really important.
Really important. So she's working, trials are so important because we need to figure out how we're able to cure these different conditions. So she'll be working very much in collaboration with, as I mentioned, like other researchers and individuals that are doing research activities. So it's just so important that a lot of research goes into this area because we don't know. And that's the thing. And trials are so important to trial different drugs that may, help the condition or cure the condition or whatever way we can. We have a national advocacy service, which is really important, and a learning development service. So we're running the condition. So it's kind of hard for us because we do run condition specific events because people want to connect in. If they get FSHD, they want to connect in because that's the next condition specific event we're running online. They want to connect in with other people with the same condition. Even though, generally when we run stuff nationally, it'll be across all the conditions. Like our national conference is coming up at Crow Park in December, and we run that on a yearly basis, and that'll cover all the conditions, but people will want to connect in condition specific just because it's their condition. So we do run that, but we can't run, because we're like a small enough charity, we can't run thousands of them a year, but we do run things like that, a lot of learning events and citizens information. We ran that recently, so we run a lot of that type of stuff because people always want to know about entitlements. How do I navigate the system? How do I adapt my house? How do I do things like that? So very important type of learning events, and most of them are online because we have to connect in everywhere, around the country. And then obviously our national advocacy service is extremely important because we need to advocate for certain things, whether it's multidisciplinary teams supporting Beaumont Hospital and getting that in place and the funding in place for that and making it better, or we're obviously navigating with Duchenne that treatment, and obviously SMA at the moment. So just working on them type of campaigns is really important, but working with people, it's not campaigning against, it's working with people that we can, and trying to support them. Mention the transport system. We only have like one paid driver and 2 volunteers. We're trying to grow it, and we're trying to put buses that we loan out our buses kind of over in Cork and the West at the moment. But our transport driver is based in Dublin in the Leinster area. So he only really, like, his main job would be to pick up people coming in from the West or the South or the Midlands, for medical appointments anywhere, and he'd bring them to and from. And when you say people living alone, that service comes in very, very, very big important time. Because he just picks up. We prioritise, and we'll always prioritise the hospital appointments. The same with our home from home. And he picks up, he will gear our service towards the people that are most vulnerable, that need to get to their hospital appointment and back. So, that's a key service for us, but obviously we'd love to grow it. And then I suppose our last service would be, we loan out equipment, so disability equipment, because sometimes, when you get a diagnosis, the equipment isn't forthcoming as quick as you need it, or you get a change in diagnosis. So we will always have power chairs in stock, or wheelchairs or scooters, or anything hoists. So we will loan that out on short-term basis until the OT or the physio, OT mainly, can get that kind of equipment in place for their member.
And that takes a little while, doesn't it?
It can. It depends where you live. Same thing again, it depends who you're dealing with. So, and it depends on what resources in the place you're living that OT is dealing with. So some will find it that'll take a little bit longer than others, and others will get it straight away. I think we had a case recently where a child couldn't go to school because the power chair wasn't forthcoming. And that just wasn't okay, so obviously we can provide a power chair for that child in the interim, but little things like that. And it's no blame to the education system or the healthcare system. That's why charities exist, so we can step in, and while the state bodies are trying to step in. But I think that's mainly all our services.
Excellent.
Had to read it out because I'll forget something.
Don't be worrying, that happens. We're coming right to the end now. Before I ask you the last question, just give out your website, because it's full of all that information that you just said.
So it's www.mdi.ie. and if you need any support or anything, you'll see straight away on the front page like our information advocacy support line. You can just call that. And if you don't want to call, because some people actually don't want to talk, so we do have you can send a web form page, because some people just don't want to talk about it, and they just want to get a little bit of information. Most of the time, first diagnosis is information around condition specific. Could you send me a condition specific fact sheet on what this means for me? Things like that. But it's not just that. It can be anyone. It could be stakeholders calling us. But yeah, that's our website. And then we have social media. We have Facebook. Please follow us. We have Instagram. We're all over everything. We have a brilliant communications officer. I hope he's listening. He's all over the development of our website. So hopefully you're able to navigate it. And we're always looking for feedback if you're not able to navigate it.
Right. Coming right to the end, anything else you'd like to say before we finish?
I suppose challenges that like probably us as a national organisation face and maybe our members face, like obviously we're member led, so needs based members, so we will run any challenges our members face. We look to run services and programmes around them and to meet them needs. So I mean, day-to-day living is definitely, it can be a challenge for some of our members. Access to healthcare packages, I mentioned that, access to treatments in a timely manner is so important for our membership base. So, supporting that. Accessibility issues, transport, and most importantly, suitable accommodation. I do think when you're building buildings, and many people have said this, you need to have someone with a lived experience of a disability supporting that infrastructure when it's getting built, because sometimes what people see is not what is actually fully accessible. Main thing I find is just for a challenge for our members, sometimes because it's a rare condition, it's no one's fault, it's just a lack of awareness around the disability and how progressive it can be for people. And most importantly for us, educating them professionals and helping them and supporting them and understanding. Even our counsellors, we'd always educate them before they come into us on our contracted list. And then just employment. Sometimes we can have employment issues and education issues, as I mentioned, but we're working with people and working on awareness programs around that. So I just think that's the main challenges our membership face. Us as an organisation, because we're national, because we have to cover 60 conditions and then sub-conditions, it can be very hard, and it's rare. It's very hard for us to connect people in physically. So we do online stuff, but we're always welcome to new ideas on how we can do that, break down the barriers of social exclusion, because that is there 100% for our membership base. And obviously funding is always going to be an issue for us. So if anyone would like to, connect in with us on any grants or funding, we're always open to that. But I think they're just the challenges we face. It's just nice to kind of mention them, but they're all workable.
Very good. Well, look, I went through your website. It's easy to use. It's full of information. As you said, there is an easy to use form that you can fill out, send in for information. Ashley, thanks for talking to us at Disability Matters.
No problem. Thanks for having us.
It's our pleasure.